The man in the shadows. I never believed a simple act of kindness could alter the destiny of an entire empire. I never imagined a cup of warm tea would uncover the truth buried beneath decades of lies, power, and greed. But the morning I placed that cup into the trembling hands of the silent old groundskeeper, everything in the Aurelio dynasty began to crack. And by the time the truth finally surfaced, nothing, not wealth, not blood, not legacy, was ever the same again. My name is Elena Aurelio, the youngest great-granddaughter of Valerio Aurelio, a man whispered about in business magazines like a myth. At just 20, I lived inside a world built on marble floors, guarded gates, and expensive perfumes. The Aurelio name crowned five-star hotels, shopping centers, and entire districts in 3 countries. People lowered their voices when we entered a room, as if our presence demanded silence. But inside the mansion where my family gathered every Sunday, the atmosphere never smelled of home. It smelled of competition, sharp, metallic, suffocating. My relatives had turned ambition into a weapon. My mother believed vulnerability was poison. My father taught that every interaction was a transaction. My older cousins, Beatrice, Lorenzo, and Renzo, walked through life as if the world belonged to them by default. I hated it. The cruelty disguised as confidence. The entitlement that suffocated kindness. But I didn't know how deeply that cruelty had infected our legacy until the day everything fell apart. That morning, the sky was still pale as I arrived at Aurelio Global Headquarters, where I was forced to intern to learn discipline. In the courtyard, I noticed the old groundskeeper, the man everyone ignored, struggling to lift a crate of broken stone tiles. His back was bowed, breath short, hands shaking. My cousins passed by him laughing, calling him the ghost that can't retire. His name, I later learned, was Mr. Solis. Something about him always felt steady, like a candle in a drafty room, small, but refusing to go out. When the crate nearly slipped from his arms, I ran toward him. "Let me help," I said, grabbing the heavier side before it crashed. His eyes lifted, and in them I saw a spark I couldn't name. Warmth, intelligence, a quiet recognition. "Thank you, Miss Elena," he replied gently. I froze. "How do you know my name?" He only smiled, a soft curve that felt like a secret he wasn't ready to share. I carried the crate to the service yard and returned with a cup of warm tea, lavender, the kind that soothed the nerves.
"For you," I said. He accepted it with both hands, as if it were something precious, not just a drink. "That," he whispered, "is the first warm thing I've been given here in a very long time." Something shifted in his eyes then. A decision, hidden but definite. I didn't understand it until hours later. Before noon, every member of the Aurelio family was summoned to the private glass conference hall on the top floor, the one no one entered unless an announcement was monumental. Rumors swirled among my cousins that our great-grandfather was about to choose the next heir. The thought tied a knot in my stomach. Valerio Aurelio was 93, wheelchair-bound, and rarely appeared in public anymore. But when he entered the room, leaning not on his wheelchair but on a cane, everyone gasped. He hadn't stood without assistance in years. But the bigger shock walked in behind him. It was Mr. Solis, the quiet old groundskeeper, wrinkled and stooped, his faded cap still in his hands. My relatives burst into whispers, outrage, confusion. Why was a maintenance worker present during a generational meeting? My great-grandfather raised a hand. Silence fell instantly. "My decision today," he said, voice surprisingly strong, "will decide the future of this family. But before I choose an heir, you must understand how that choice was made." My mother stepped forward. "Father, this is unnecessary. Enough," he snapped. The word struck the air like lightning. Then he turned to the groundskeeper. "Show them." Mr. Solis removed his cap. Then with slow, deliberate movements, he peeled off what I thought was aged skin, but was actually a thin, masterfully crafted mask. Gasps erupted. Beatrice stumbled. Lorenzo cursed. Renzo's jaw dropped. Before our eyes, the frail old man transformed into a younger, sharper, commanding version of Valerio Aurelio. My great-grandfather, alive, healthy, deceptively quiet. He had been disguised for months, walking through the empire not as its king, but as its shadow. My knees nearly gave out. You pretended to be a groundskeeper, my father stammered. Yes, Valerio replied calmly. Because as myself, I see only performances. But as a man beneath your notice, I saw your truth. He pointed at Lorenzo. I saw you berate employees who couldn't defend themselves. He pointed to Beatrice. I saw you steal credit for others' work. He looked at Renzo. I watched you lie, cheat, and cut corners for convenience. Then he turned to my parents. Arrogance, entitlement, cruelty. All of it displayed without restraint when you believed no one important was watching. His eyes finally rested on me. And I saw you kneel beside a stranger, lift the burden from his hands, and offer him warmth with no witnesses, no expectations, no reward. My breath shook. Elena Aurelio, he said, you have the heart of a leader. The room erupted. This is absurd, Beatrice shouted. She's too young, Lorenzo cried. She manipulated you, my mother insisted. She's soft, my father hissed. Valerio slammed his cane against the table, the sound slicing the chaos in half. His voice dropped to a trembling, emotional silence. I built this empire from nothing, and I will not watch it rot in the hands of those who have forgotten humanity. Wealth without compassion is destruction. Power without empathy is poison, and I will not leave poison behind. He signed the inheritance documents with a decisive stroke of the pen. Elena inherits everything. The Aurelio Empire, the hotels, the global accounts, the holdings, the estates, shifted into my name in seconds. My cousins shouted. My mother collapsed into a chair. My father cursed. But the decision was final. The signature already drying. In the weeks that followed, the world buzzed with disbelief. A 20-year-old girl now led a multinational dynasty. But I worked harder than anyone expected, harder than anyone believed I could. I raised wages, rebuilt departments, fired corrupt executives, installed transparency, created scholarships for underprivileged students, funded shelters, restored communities my family had neglected, and every morning, Valerio, no longer in disguise, walked beside me, slow but proud. One afternoon, reviewing blueprints for a free clinic, I finally asked him, why? Why did you choose me just for a cup of tea? He covered my hand with his weathered one. It wasn't the tea, my child. It was the way you looked at me, as a person. Not a tool, not an inconvenience, not a decoration in your world of marble. You saw me. My throat tightened. Leadership begins with seeing. He sighed. And kindness, he added, is the sharpest form of judgment. It reveals who people truly are without you lifting a single blade. Over time, my family changed. My mother began volunteering. My father apologized to the staff he once ignored. My cousins found real jobs, humbling ones. They learned that the world owed them nothing, and every morning I passed the garden path where I had once handed a cup of warm tea to a stranger. A small moment, a soft gesture, a decision I barely thought about. Yet it was the moment that changed everything, the moment that crowned a new legacy, the moment that revealed that empires don't rise on marble and gold, they rise on heart. And in the end, it wasn't blood that chose me. It wasn't even my great-grandfather. It was a simple truth whispered through time. Kindness is the greatest power in any dynasty, because it builds futures where cruelty only buries them.